also known as yesterday. I painted all the risers. Oh, wow. And the trim. Vice Chair, Sam Smith, Sullivan, and
Okay. Just popped in.
Cool.
Town Manager Brennan Duffy. Are we okay?
Yeah, I'm starting the camera. Would you mind going back through that? We weren't rolling.
Once more with feeling.
Once more. Let's do a funny one.
Good evening and welcome to a regular meeting of the Norwich Selectboard. This is Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. My name is Marcia Cowler, I'm serving as chair. I'm joined in alphabetical order by board members Roger Arnold, just now, Mary Layton, Vice Chair, Pamela Smith, and Priscilla Vincent, and by Town Manager Brennan Duffy. This meeting is being held in the Tracy Hall meeting room and via Zoom with Junction Arts Media, broadcasting live on YouTube. The agenda and packet materials were distributed via the Norwich listserv, and they are also available on the town website under the Select tab. Brennan is monitoring admission to our Zoom platform. No one will be admitted unless we can see a full name displayed. As always, everyone must focus all their remarks, speak clearly and loudly so that everyone can hear what is being said, and refrain from sidebar conversations which can impair concentration and everyone's ability to hear what's going on. If audience members want to talk with one another, please go to the lobby by the stairs to do so. Members of the public who are attending in person and who are recognized by the chair to speak, please come to the table so that we remote participants can hear and see you. For remote public questions or comments through Zoom, please raise your hand to be recognized by the chair before speaking. For questions or comments through the telephone, press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute after being recognized by the chair. I will monitor the Zoom view to acknowledge participants who wish to speak, and we will reach everyone who wants to comment. Remember to direct all comments or questions to the chair, not to other people either on the board or in the audience. The order of speaking will generally be select board members, then members of the public attending in person, then people participating remotely through Zoom. Consistent with our rules and procedures adopted in March of this year, the chair may suggest commenters conclude their remarks within 3 minutes. Public comments for items not on the agenda should be offered after we approve the minutes. I will announce when we reach that section of the agenda. Finally, to the extent that the audience and youth participation declines over the evening, I want to highlight that the meetings listed on the agenda for November and most of December are going to be budget focused, and you can expect to see many, if not all of them, offered only through Zoom as we work through that process. When each agenda is posted, the third line of the heading always indicates the form of participation, i.e. hybrid or Zoom, etc. So with that, I will announce when we will reach the section for public comments, and the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. To that end, I know we have 2 changes this evening. As to item number 6, the youth member candidate for the Rec Council cannot be here this evening, and I would like to table this as he has been notified he'll be on the November 11th agenda. As to item 9, the family list has changed their plans and requests that we remove their request for an alcohol waiver to use Tracy Hall. With those amendments, is there a motion to approve the agenda? I move to approve the agenda as amended. Do we have a second? I'll second. Priscilla seconds. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. The next item is the minutes of October 11th meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes? And if so, we can begin discussions, if any.
I move to approve the minutes of October 11th, 2023.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Second by Priscilla. Any discussion? Priscilla?
As I noted in an email, by then Brennan was our town manager, not our interim town manager, so that should be corrected.
Good point. And did you have something?
I did. We have an email from Cheryl Lindbergh requesting that her comment be changed to show that she requested information about where the assistant town manager job description is posted. She couldn't find it online. So I think it says town manager, and it should be assistant town manager. And then the other thing I noted was under Romy on page 3 of the minutes. He said 5 new speed signs were scheduled for installation. He actually said we have 5 currently, and 3 were being replaced with the new solar farms, Beaver Meadow Turnpike and Main Street Gateway. So that 5 should be 3.
Any comments? Discussion about that?
I see it's up and running on Main Street, go by it all the time.
I don't remember it was Pam who describes it as first and street signs. You know, the number of them.
So,
Any comments about the other changes proposed? Hearing none, do we want to vote on this?
Should we vote as amended though?
As amended,
Okay, so I'll change my motion to move to approve the minutes of October 11th, 2023 as amended.
yep.
Okay. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Stuart, did you have a comment?
Yes, please. Stuart Richards, Norwich. So, with respect to the minutes, I've said on several occasions, with regard to the open meeting law, that the town and the select board has made a mockery of the open meeting law. Those words are not my words. They're the words of the judge who ruled on the open meeting law. I really would appreciate it if that was in the minutes, and also, it's part of the record. And I shouldn't have to say it numerous times, as I have said, to reflect what the judge actually said. So if you would, it would be great if you actually entered into the minutes the fact that with respect to the open meeting law, there was a judgment rendered by the judge that said that Norwich and Norwich's select board has made a mockery of the open meeting law. Thank you very much.
I think this
Not what it
was,
says.
I'm sorry, you want to make a comment about budget?
That's not what it says. It's a matter of public record. People can read it. It's not what the judge said.
Well, whether it is or it isn't, it's kind of hearsay to admit it
Yep.
here.
Totally.
So I think that what we need actually is to review again who gets to change the minutes and what the minutes are supposed to reflect, because we can't, I think. This should be, in my opinion, a record of the business that we took up. We have an electronic record of what people are offering as comments. I'm not sure that they should be in the minutes. Be that as it may, that's not on the agenda for the night, but I just threw it out. Priscilla.
For my comment, we had a piece of correspondence from Stuart Richards for the last meeting, in which he put that into a letter, which is part of now the record.
Part of the record?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
saying that we were making a mockery of the open meeting law.
Okay, thank you. So the minutes have been approved as amended. The correspondence is next. We had a few things. Paul Magnello wrote in support of the proposed bicycle corridor. I would note that the select board and the planning commission have already been contacted about a survey, which we will complete with the town manager. The Connecticut River Conservancy writes to invite participation by the select board and the Conservation Commission in the FERC relicensing process. I've asked Brennan's office to pull that together so that we can have a meeting with, to share our concerns, and I think that we should invite the Conservation Commission as well as the Planning Commission. There's a letter from the Select Board Chair commending Cheryl Lindbergh on her Treasurer of the Year award from the Vermont Municipal Clerk and Treasurers Association. That was an amendment of the first letter that I wrote to indicate the title. The letter, there's a letter from the Child Care Center in Norwich regarding their 3-year update to the existing approved source protection plan to protect their on-site drinking water source and giving notice to Norwich as to land use activities that could adversely impact the water quality of associated wells. They're requesting notice of land use decisions or permitting issues and requesting involvement in the planning and decision process where appropriate. Brennan, I noticed that notice was sent to the planning and zoning office and the town manager's office. Can we just ensure that copies of those also go to the development review board and the land use subcommittee of the planning commission? I think water issues are going to become more and more important, especially if we have development and things. There's a letter from Cheryl Lindbergh restating the concerns expressed at the last meeting. I would note it's not the role of the select board to explain the law to anyone. If the select board wishes to authorize response from council, someone can make a motion directing the town manager to forward Cheryl's letter for response. There's a letter from Eric Renz regarding, he's the chair of the Energy Commission, regarding a letter from Doug Wilberding, which was included in the 9/7/23 select board packet. The select board, as you know, everyone should know, you've been watching the meetings, we're going to be meeting with all the committees and board members, and I would just point out that the town plan is only an aspirational document which doesn't have the authority to charge a group, rather it allows the town to approve bylaws and zoning ordinances. Charges for committees and boards are authorized by the select board, and we're going to be reviewing those charges as we work through this process where there are 20 groups. There's also an email from Cheryl that we dealt with about the 10/11/23 minutes. And then in the context of the chair's request that board members state their priorities for budgeting, memos were submitted by myself, Mary Layton, Pam Smith, and Priscilla Vincent about budgeting. Do we have a motion to approve the correspondence as submitted?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary. Do we have a second?
Anybody feel like seconding things?
Yeah. Thank you, Priscilla. All in favor? Call a question? So,
Yes.
Pam? Roger?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Marcia? Yes. Passed with 4-1. Thank you very much. AP warrant. We have 4 warrants tonight and we will take them in order. Let's start with a motion for each. So do we have a motion to approve the AP warrant number 1060?
I move to approve the AP warrant number 1060 in the amount of $246,199.50.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Priscilla. Any discussion? Yes.
I would just note that these are all the quote other monetary articles that were passed at town meeting, except it's only half so far for a certain amount of them: Advanced Transit, Cemetery Commission, the Historical Society, the Public Library, the Family Place, Visiting Nurses, and the Waiver Council on Aging. But otherwise, we're just paying those suckers.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. That's what voters voted for. They should understand this.
That's half the quiz. All right. May I call for question? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. The next is warrant number 1061.
I move to approve the AP warrant number 1061 in the amount of $27,539 from Fund 53.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Priscilla. Any discussion? Pam?
I did inquire about the balance of that fund and the select board approval. Fund 53. The response I got was that when this check was cut or printed or whatever term you want to use, the balance was $33,226.34, and it was approved at our October 11 meeting. And those are the kinds of things that we had asked that would be actually on the warrant. I had to request those separately.
Do you want to address what can be on the warrant?
I think we did have the prior discussion. I think right now the warrants are going to appear as they have.
Then I'll continue to ask the question.
Well, if you're going to do that, just so that we're not getting into the realm of any possibility of an open meeting law violation, would you just address it to Brennan? And then, if the board wants to know what you're asking, we can put it in the packet.
Why are we approving funds being spent if we don't know the balance of the fund and the date that the select board approved it? Why wouldn't the whole select board want to know that?
Would someone else have to address that? Roger?
No, I don't. I feel like we have addressed it.
I don't see that this was a violation of open meeting law. That
No, it's just that it's not about, it's a question that goes to what's going to be presented at the meeting. So therefore, rather than, it's not about agenda setting. So send it to the town manager who can address it.
But I thought we all agreed at the last meeting that these pieces of information would come with the warrant. Did I misunderstand?
I am remembering that nobody objected to that if it could be done.
They don't cut these checks unless they know that it's approved by the select board. I know that for a fact.
But we had approved it on October 11th, right?
Right,
So,
but the
so
other
this is a
one,
warrant.
but the other one we approved back in January, I think it said.
So you remember it being approved.
No, I had asked. I remember this one being approved, but I didn't know the balance of the fund. I didn't know that we had $27,539, nor did anyone else, because no one knew the balance of that fund when we approved the amount. So I think these are important pieces of information for us to have to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars.
So what I will say is when we are asked to authorize funds at the time the request is made, it would be great to be shared all these applicable details, ideally in a memo, but certainly like in the space of the meeting. But once it is authorized, I don't want to have the conversation again when it comes to do the warrant. So if we approve something on October 11th, there's time that goes past, I don't want to rehash the conversation again because quite frankly, the warrants used to be part of a consent agenda, right? So there was no reason to necessarily relitigate what we previously discussed. So yes, I agree with you that that information should be available when we make the authorization, but like ultimately, once we make the authorization, I don't want to reauthorize it in a conversation. The warrants should be part of a consent agenda.
So you'll notice tonight that in the context of the request by village training, there is the first initiation of use of a form, which does exactly that. And I would say to make it, however you want to do your own bookkeeping, you can start keeping your own record so that, keep copies of those, but I think you'll see them from now on. Okay?
I could just make
Yes,
comments.
so
I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody, but I think that with the turmoil we've had generally, there's a certain lack of confidence that the information is complete and accurate, especially in finances. And so I really appreciate Pam being so very diligent. I am also hoping that a level of trust will develop so that when we get something, we believe it's been all checked out and it's all fine, but past history hasn't been that great.
And I think you'll begin to see that structure going into place.
I hope so. Yeah.
Okay, so we're ready to vote on AP warrant 1061. Call the question. Priscilla?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Marcia? Yes. Unanimous. And now we have AP warrant number 10,062.
I move to approve the AP warrant number 1062 in the amount of $4,550 from Fund 24.
Do we have a second?
Sure. Somebody's got to.
Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. And the last one is warrant number 1065.
I move to approve the AP warrant number 1065 in the amount of $131,046.11.
Do we have a second? Okay. Thank you, Priscilla. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Warrants will be coming to you in a second. Now we're in the section for public comments. Get to my screen. Please come to the table.
I'm Wayne Niffen. In the packet, I enjoyed reading your request from the select board members to put in writing the issues that they felt were non-negotiable. I learned a lot about things that I wasn't aware of, and appreciate that very much. I noticed that it was not unanimous in terms of the response from the members of the select board, and I don't know if I just missed something that had been previously recorded, or whether that person elected not to participate in your request. And so if that information is available somewhere, I'd like to know where, so I can read it and learn something more. If it hasn't been done, so be it. But it would be an interesting piece of, it would help me as a member of the public understand more about what the priorities of the select board are. So thank you for your.
Thank you. Priscilla?
Do you want me to go, I'm speaking as a member of the public.
No,
Do you want me to-
retain your seat.
Okay, a couple of things. One, I want to remind everybody we're having a welcome fest for Brennan tomorrow from 12 to 1 in the gazebo. So anybody out there, anybody here who, wants to chat with Brennan or say hello or whatever, show up, I'll be there. Also, because of open meeting law, we're not allowed to discuss things. We can just send memos to each other with no reply. I would like to reiterate my concern about the discrepancy in the town line between Norwich and Sharon, and also Norwich and Thetford. It's particularly acute between Norwich and Sharon, and this is something that is sort of at the bottom of our, we'll get to it eventually thing. But I think there are maybe a couple of property owners trying to sell property within that disputed area, and that might become something urgent. I don't know.
Do you want to address that or not, Joe?
Well, it's been kind of on the radar here for months, and I think at this point, I'm still foggy on who's disputing the boundary line. Like where the dispute?
The listers are aware that they overlap.
Well, I don't
think it's a dispute yet.
Yeah, we had, Brennan and I talked about how to handle this, and, it seems like the people withstanding haven't come to the select board to say, I want something to be done. So I would invite them to raise their hands and tell us what they want.
Can I make another comment?
Yes.
Because again, we can't discuss anything except in a public meeting. I keep trying to get on the agenda, and I understand it's for the next meeting, something about the union negotiations. And this is very troubling to me because I believe the negotiations started about 14 months ago. there was hope, at least on the union side, that this would be resolved in time to do the current fiscal year budget. It's not resolved. As far as I can tell, the last meeting was in March. There have been some emails. There is no set date for the next meeting. It doesn't, I feel as though I know more about the UAW dispute than I know about what's going on with our town and our little union. But I think our union members are not very happy that there doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency. And I would just like to press for some kind of desire to get this figured out. I mean, I'm on the board and I don't even know what, we've had 2 executive sessions. I don't really know what's going on. I assume it's wages and benefits. What else is it usually? And I would really like to make some progress on this, if at all possible.
As of September 9th, we were waiting for additional dates for a meeting.
Well, is there any sense of urgency?
And as we said in the agenda setting process, that we would discuss on November 8th. I don't know why we're using public comment for agenda setting.
Because I've
Really
asked,
appropriate,
I have,
actually.
excuse me, I have asked several times that this be brought up and you know, okay, it has to be an executive session. This is not a conversation that has to be an executive session, but I'm just frustrated that I can't seem to get any impetus behind let's do something. I don't know where the problem is. I'm not going to make any judgments, but let's get something going here.
I am not an expert in collective bargaining, but I will offer that it is common knowledge that no one should be talking about what's going on in collective bargaining.
But they shouldn't be talking.
Yes, but there are rules. And so I would just say that we have attorneys who will make sure that the rules are being followed. And that's all we can say at the moment. And November 11th, you're going to hear something.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, just like, how are we using the public comment period? This is the second meeting in a row where select board members have brought up agenda items through the use of public comment. We extensively engaged in the back and forth discussion when members of the public bring items to the agenda and public comment. That actually is a violation of the open meeting law, right? So, when you are bringing items that are discussing items for an agenda that are not on the agenda, that's illegal. So do not raise agenda items that are not on the agenda. If you would like to add things to the agenda, you can do so at the start of the meeting. This is it's like so inappropriate, and I ask for your intervention.
I have sent a couple of emails asking for these things to be on the agenda, and you know,
And you don't have the consensus of the board.
well, I get nothing. So I would like the public to know that at least some of us are concerned about these things.
I don't think you should assume that the board isn't concerned with. I mean, there's a process. Like, there's an agenda setting process. You can't use the public comment period to usurp the consensus of the board, which is that it's not an agenda item. So I said that last time when it was done for Pam. I say when members of the public do it, it's just inappropriate. It's not the process that we have here. Someone is missing out on that discussion that they might have wanted to have because it wasn't part of the warrant agenda.
I think
I'm not like, that's just what it is. That's all.
I think one thing that we have to be careful about is we can't call things illegal, only judges call things illegal. But we can say that we know that there are guardrails, and we have to be very careful about those guardrails, which include, you know, and unfortunately, we are less able to be free in our speech as board members than the public is. And even though the public may, you know, gnash teeth and be very upset with why they're not hearing something from us, there is often a reason that we cannot disclose. And I wish everyone in Norwich could sit in this chair a few times to understand.
I don't wish that against
It is not an easy place to be, and you can't say everything you want to say. So in the agenda setting process, I think We will get to things when they're ripe, and if they're not getting ripe and they need to be ripe, then we'll do what we need to make sure that they get there. But it takes patience on behalf of the board as well as the public. So, okay, Mary?
I have a completely unrelated public comment.
And two, Mary.
I was just very impressed with the brochure that the Solid Waste Committee has designed for the transfer station, and a little QR code so you can get on the Better Bin app, and the outreach at the, what I call the dump. I think it's great. I took a couple, items from Linda Cook. She said, well, any families that might like this? And I went over to the neighbors and said, I think your kids might like this little app. And the mom said, oh yeah, like anything with my phone they'd love to do. I said, well, they can scan everything and tell their friends. So I just think that outreach is really good. And I think the brochure is very professional and very informative. And you can put it on your fridge, the fridge magnet. So kudos.
We like that kind of
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right, I see Stuart Richards' hand.
Stuart Richards, Norwich. I'd like to follow up with what Priscilla was talking about. I'd like to talk about the police for a few minutes. And, as it relates also to the union negotiations. I don't sit on the board, so I guess I can talk about it as long as I don't ask you for any privileged information. So, not so long ago, I'm sorry, is there somebody interrupting? No, so not so long ago, I've been talking to folks over at the police department. I think everybody remembers that we had only one member of the police force for quite some time. And I'm very concerned that we may find ourselves in the same situation based upon what I've heard. So what I have heard is that people have told me that we're going to be looking for a new police force again to replace the entire police force, which is going to be leaving. Now, I found that to be very disturbing. And so I asked, well, why are people leaving? And what I heard was from some people was there's no future for us here. We're looking for jobs. And why are we looking for jobs? Well, starting pay in Norwich is $5 to $8 more per hour in other places. And there's really nothing here to attract applicants. So we've had 4 chiefs in 4 years. We've been short-staffed for over 4 years. The wages are low. We defunded the CSO position. There's no money for training or professional development, no college tuition reimbursement. There's a lack of equipment and or out-of-date technology. It took 2.5 years to negotiate the last contract, and we're 14 months into this round of negotiations with no movement. Regular violations of the union contract occur, and the town manager is making $70 an hour. So those were some of the things I heard, and you can dismiss them as hearsay and not credit what I'm saying as being accurate. I can only tell you what I've heard from various people over at the police. And it's very concerning to me that it doesn't come up as an agenda item. It doesn't seem to be worth talking about on the part of the select board. So I wish you would make it an agenda item as requested and discuss this and see if you can't do something to make life at the police force more palatable for the police who have very difficult jobs and ought to be compensated accordingly. So thanks. I hope you can do something about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. I'll just reiterate again, this is in the collective bargaining bailiwick, not the select board. So end of that discussion for now. All right, informational items, town manager report.
All right, thanks everybody. So as I normally do, I'll kind of look through some of the different departments. I know we have reports for most of these departments, so I don't want to waste time reiterating what's already been viewed in the packet. I guess one of the pieces that we're going to see later in the agenda is related to the audit, and I just wanted to mention that we have a new requirement due to the surplus funds that came into the federal government, and that is going to be requiring an amendment to our existing audit agreement to perform a single audit, which will be done on a different timing. So we're still on track, I think, to have our fiscal year audited at the end of the calendar year, and the single audit will take place after that. So we will have a document to approve here later in the agenda. The budget process is underway. We have basically, through Joyce Hasbrook's work, created a very sophisticated spreadsheet that is going to look at both capital projects and planning as well as operational budgets. And we're going to, as we've agreed, to kick that off at the next meeting on November 8th. We did get past the deadline for the agenda and the packet. A new updated statement of work, which is going to be compensating Joyce at time and a half, as we discussed previously, and is what we did last year for her evening work. So we're going to come in and meet at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. She will be compensated at a higher rate. So I plan to sign that so she's ready to go here for the November 8th meeting. The planning department continuing to work here in our kind of interim capacity, and I will just add that we've had some productive discussions with the small group of Jack Camden and Jan Lasberg, who in Miranda is our kind of HR specialist, town manager. And what we're doing is really trying to refine and potentially improve the job description for the leadership position in the planning office. And I think again, we've had a couple good conversations about that, and we hope to, in the next week or so, make that a little more formal as far as getting consensus from the other groups that are going to be involved with whoever is hired into that position. And our hope is, once we can reach that consensus, to immediately try to hire somebody. Again, we're under a bit of a time deadline, as we would like to have somebody into that position prior to the end of the calendar year, ideally as soon as possible, so that they can get kind of up to speed with Kyle's looking there at zoning administrator.
Do you anticipate that's going to mean another advertising?
Yes. So once we have kind of updated the position, the job description, and come to a consensus on the kind of pay scale that we're going to be offering, I think we would reissue that publicly through the different forums that we have. Okay.
Can you say a little bit more? Can you say more a little bit about the nature of the conversations, Brendan? Like, it doesn't really tell me very much.
The nature of our discussion about the job description? Yes. I think we've tried to get some insights from both the Planning Commission Chair and the representative of the Development Review Board about what their organizations would see as kind of job duties, responsibilities, and also kind of the personal characteristics we'd like to see in the new leadership role.
So what's an example of that? So is there an example? Just
an example of a job?
What personal characteristic they would like to see in the
I don't know.
Non-described title that you...
Yeah. I don't think I want to go into the details of that. It will be a document that will come out publicly here, I would think, in the next couple of days, and people can take a look at that and see what we've come up with as kind of the goal there, the aspiration. Okay. Again, there is a police report, so I will just add that Chief Romei is informed that a lot of the mandatory training that has to go on throughout the total calendar year for police officers is underway right now, making sure everybody has gotten the correct hours in. Jumping to the Department of Public Works, I just want to give a quick update on Hemlock Road and to say that we did have our Sanborn Head Engineering firm come in and do borings early last week. And as far as I know, that all went well, and we are currently awaiting kind of the results of their investigation. So I can't really say anything more about where that will go, other than they're all aware. We would like to, get something understood about how we can get vehicles into that area.
So just to reiterate, that Sanborn Head report goes back to Stantec and to us?
I think it'll probably go back to Stantec, and then they would probably be what was warranted in that situation. That's fine. And then the FEMA reconciliation work for the emergency road repairs that occurred is ongoing. I know Chris Kaufman is on our call at the moment to speak about improving culverts later in the agenda, and I want to just recognize that he is doing a good job of going through a very tedious and time-intensive process of trying to get reimbursements through the FEMA. It's a nice job. On the fire department side, again, there's a report there, but Chief Northern just mentioned they've been doing some school outreach, and they also mentioned they had a new dry hydrant at 1850 New Boston Road. And in the packet, again, for a little later in our agenda, there is a request for some costs that will outfit the new, see that sweat there, you can add in if you'd like, to add in the fit up for the new engine. It's on the way here. I don't want to give a specific date there, but it's close. And then we also just wanted to mention that they had another road captains meeting, which was held last week on Monday. On the recreation department side, we wanted to just to let folks know that the Norwich is coming up. I learned more about that. It sounds like a lot of fun. And that is scheduled for Sunday, the 29th, so this coming Sunday, and expecting, I think, about 400 people to participate in that. So we're just been busy working with that. She also mentioned on Tuesday, Halloween, there's going to be some Tracy Hall set up. I guess people come in and use the building to get outfitted before they take to the streets for Halloween. So that should be fun. Look forward to that. And then the Barrett playground work is still ongoing, and I know Bree has enlisted the help of some volunteers for that, and is anticipating a mid-November opening. So coming right up there. From the town manager's office, I can give a couple updates. The compensation study has begun in earnest. We actually just, working with our consultant, sent out a bunch of surveys to various similar municipalities that have been identified throughout Vermont, pretty much all over the state outside of Chittenden County. And so we tried to, they tried to find towns they thought were similar in either size or budget or population. So we will hope to get a robust response to that. And we have asked them to fast track that study if possible, so that we can have some information back before we finish at least the budgeting piece, because I think, as people are mentioning, salaries and for a competitive starting salary and to retain people in positions is pretty critical right now. We want to make sure we're doing a thoughtful job as we present the budget to the voters. We also had our group from Studio Nexus Architects in Tracy Hall this morning doing an inspection and taking measurements, looking around to see, I guess, what information they're going to use in the first parts of their study. So that is underway as well. Miranda mentioned that the town report process is beginning. So again, that kind of comes out in conjunction with the end of the year in the budget and the town meeting information. So that will be something our office will be working on. And then I will just add, as Priscilla mentioned earlier, I am going to be at the bandstand or the gazebo from 12 o'clock to 1 tomorrow. I know everybody in this room has met you and knows listening, but there are folks out there in the community who we have not had a chance yet to say hello. I'd be happy to talk to folks. So again, that'll be an hour tomorrow, and if it's good and productive, we won't be able to do this again kind of on a regular basis with us to informally chat with me.
Nice.
Like coffee with coffee.
Yeah, no coffee tomorrow. So,
Talk with a TM.
yeah. When the ice rink comes up, we'll have a skate with the town. I like the ice skate.
Oh, these have donuts and cider or something.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll
Yeah.
step it up a little.
I have a question.
Yes, Martin.
Brendan, you probably have to get back with the day specifics, but do you know if or how volunteers are covered under our general insurance policies?
Volunteers for.
Yeah, I'm just thinking there's like a group of people installing possibly heavy playground equipment.
No.
Like, so I don't need to know that, but
I got to research that a little bit.
I mean, today, I'm sure there's lots of opinions on what waivers mean and don't mean, but it seems like to the extent that we have a volunteer program in this town or history of volunteerism, it would just be good to know that that was looked into and considered.
I think that should be on our list of things to address as part of our review of committee.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So kind of a liability.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure our policy does extend to like, volunteers as agents of the town, but then like how do they get recognized, right? Like, is there like a one-time opt-in for a volunteer? Do you sign a form? When you begin, before you begin your volunteer experience, like what is the town's procedure to meet the obligations of the policy?
And I think we're going to get to it at the end of the meeting, but are you even appointed?
Yeah.
I think that would have go a long ways toward being covered. If you're not appointed, you're not going to be covered.
Okay, yeah, good question. I will see if I can figure out how we're doing that.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
VLCT has announced that they have published their compensation study, and I saw that we finally participated this year, and so we do get a free copy of that report, and you requested that.
We received that.
Great, thank you. Last year we paid $100, so.
Yeah, it's better to participate. So,
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Seeing nothing further comments, how about the financial report?
So again, I as normal, will not try to read through this in detail. I think folks have had a chance to hopefully review this in the packet, and kind of the same format that has been followed in the past with the overview of the first page. And Joyce mentions the audit ongoing, financial reports. She did make a few corrections on what was in the September report, or I'm sorry, the August report in the September meeting. So corrected. We're talking about reclassifying the kind of administrative assistant role that's split between the two offices there. Health insurance, I think is at this point. And then some discussion about the main purpose funds, kind of later in that first memo.
I'd just like to say thank you very much to Joyce for beginning what she calls a preview of current debt payment schedule, because that's something I particularly asked for because I'm worried about potential upcoming bond issues for like Hemlock Road, which will be reimbursed, but first we have to take up the money, and perhaps also for the whole Culvert work, which is going to be so very expensive. So it's nice to have a sense of.
Yeah, my suspicion is when we get into the capital budgeting side of the budget discussion, some of this will probably be interesting information because we may very well need to borrow to meet our expectations.
million here, million there, I mean, you know.
Is the, I'm sorry,
Roger?
is the COLA number available yet? What was the date that you said was available, CPI and the CPI index?
It came on October 14th.
October 14th.
Yeah, Joyce has actually been out on
Okay.
vacation, so I don't know what the.
It's okay, I was
Well,
just trying to
it's
preview.
3.2 for this year, but then we do that
On your
on
average.
average.
Okay, that's good to know, thank you. I'm just trying to,
We're
Your
about
preview.
3.84, I think, was the number we were working on for the next round holdout. So it would be
Okay.
a nice on that.
okay, that's good to know.
I was looking at this and I saw for the first time a COVID grant that looks like we had it for a while. Do you guys remember that?
This is the fire department.
It's the
fire department.
We have discussed
I
that.
have emailed for it. No, I don't want to.
And we wish that they would roll that forward another
We
year.
discussed it. Yeah,
Forget I mentioned it.
you have emailed. We can bring it
Forget I
forward.
mentioned it.
How about,
But it kind of paid for the thing that we'll be talking about.
Oh, great.
how
Okay.
about, there's this opioid settlement revenue?
Yes.
So, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, thank you.
We are receiving as part of the state settlement I guess it's based on population, but a portion of that is coming to the town.
We authorized it, I remember. Okay, very good. Anything else? Yeah.
I just had a chance this afternoon to sit down and look through Joyce's memo, and one of the things that jumped out at me was the Windsor County payment. She says that the check was cut in March, but it was lost, so it was voided, and the new one was cut in September, and I was looking on the report trying to figure out where that is, but I don't see it. I see Windsor County bond and Windsor County equalization. I don't see any payments on either of those. I'm not sure what that means. And I also sent an email to the board questioning the commingling of the Gerard Fund with the Recreation Facilities and Improvement Fund. Because I don't know what GASB standard she's talking about, but, and one other thing that jumped out at me today, a couple of things. I noticed on general administration, we spent almost $2,500 on postage. Any indication of what that might have been spent on? That we spent $2,500 on postage in the first 3 months of the year. What would we have mailed?
You would mail tax bills.
Okay, makes sense. And then the other question I had was, why are we booking the contract wages for the finance officer and for the zoning administrator? Why are we booking those under wages when they're actually under contract and it should be a professional service?
You got that answer by email today, did you ask her?
If you want to call that an answer.
I do want to call that an answer.
I didn't.
Well, what else would it be though, ma'am?
What
else would it be other than an answer?
Wages are when we have employees and we pay them wages.
Yes.
And when we contract for a service, it's professional services or contracted services.
I understand.
And when we file our quarterlies with the Vermont Tax Department and for unemployment, we have to pay taxes based on wages paid. And if we're putting contracted services under wages, then those things will not necessarily reconcile easily. And I see that Joyce said she would have to verify if what she thinks happens, happens. So that's why I said I don't think it's really a fulsome answer.
Well, whether it is or it isn't, it's not the select board's choice about where things go in the line items, and the audit will catch it.
Right.
So
Well,
you have to remember our role, Pam.
I understand our role, and one of our roles is to just make sure that things are done correctly. And I feel I have the right to ask those questions.
The auditor will pick it up.
I'll send my question to the auditor.
Priscilla.
I'm looking at the expenditures detail, and we have a town manager wage, okay? We have an admin assistant wage. Is that Miranda, who is not really called an admin assistant, and is there something on here for the halftime we pay for Jimmy Wade?
Yeah, I'd have to.
Or is that all tangled up as
Well,
one?
there's, as we mentioned previously, there's a 50-50 split between them.
Yeah. But I don't see I don't see the third town manager office for the half. I just,
There may have been, sorry,
Go ahead, Roger.
I think you might have seen like half that salary under DPW and the other half is probably in the town manager's office. But I also think that wages are combined into a single line item other than, I think the town manager's salaries it's under a single line item.
well,
As budget. So what I would say to Marcia's point earlier, like if you want to, but have budget lines that are different, that is very much our wheelhouse. We could separate them out into different budget lines if you'd like. We can do it then, but I think the management of these lines after we send it to voters is entrusted to the town manager to manage
but
it.
I think,
So I think, just my last point is just, I think like when we do the budgeting process, we can potentially separate them out more clearly if you like.
I think voters would like to see, you know, here's the town manager, here's the assistant town manager, and here's the half-time one. I think they'd like to see. I'd like to see.
Yeah, as Roger said, we need to tackle that. Go ahead, Ann.
What happened in Priscilla is that when this budget was put together, there was no assistant town manager position.
I know.
There was an assistant to the town manager, and so that wage was combined with the half wage of the additional person that was hired in that office. So this is the combination of the assistant town manager that was voted in March of this year and the new person. So it is combined there.
Confusing.
Right, but it was because the position didn't exist at the time, so the line item wasn't created.
No, okay. Have you done that now?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Next, we have the action items. And that first one is the culvert upgrade. So Brennan, Chris, who's first?
I will kick it over to Chris here quickly, other than to say that this is again kind of part of this FEMA reimbursement process where we are able to actually improve upon existing conditions in some cases. And this is one of those investments that I think would be a wise move for the town, where we can leverage a significant amount of money to improve our culvert situation so that we don't have this impactful and detrimental flooding if we have weather events, which I think we can assume we will continue to have, or continue to see them increasing in severity. So that is my lead in to our DPW director, Mr. Kaufman.
And can I just say, Chris told me there are 1,000 culverts in this town, and that is shocking to me. So
1,000?
1,000.
Culvert.
That's well, yeah. That's about 1,000 just crossing under the roads. That's not including all the driveway culverts. So we have a considerable amount of culverts in the town. So thank you, Brennan, for that. And thanks everybody for those who came out to visit the DPW. It's always appreciated, and glad I could see those folks come out and share my my humble abode with you all. This action item that I'm presenting is in relation to the, as Brennan said, the FEMA event from the July 10th series of storms that occurred during that month of July. We are in the process of going through the paperwork process for all the monies that have been expended to date, and we're working with FEMA on that reimbursement process now. The two other items that are out there obviously are Hemlock Road, which we discussed earlier today and that you know about well. I did speak with both the Stantec and their subcontractor the other day, and they're on target to get us a report with some options by, I would say early to mid next week. And then the other item that I'm here to talk about, as Brennan mentioned, are these particular 5 culverts that these particular culverts were damaged or overtopped during the storm event. And a number of these culverts in particular have had damage through multiple storm events in past years. And so based on some of the culverts that were damaged, based on some of them that were overtopped, we went through a process, and we're continuing going through that process. We evaluated those culverts. FEMA's looked at these culverts, and I can go through the 5 in particular and just give you an idea of what the situation is and what the proposal is. So the first culvert is on Isley Road. It's a Class 4 road. It has a long history of being overtopped during storm events. As the town, DPW, we're responsible for stormwater on Class 4 roads. That would be in our wheelhouse. This culvert has been damaged multiple times. It's been, has a history of washing out. It actually did that multiple times in these series of events, and the road was closed for multiple days. The existing culvert is a 30 by 36 inch corrugated metal pipe. It's undersized. We recently had a hydraulic study done by the state of Vermont with Scott Jensen, who's been great to work with, and he's been able to get us to the top of the list to get these evaluated. And based on the hydraulic study, they're requiring that to handle the kind of flows that they're expecting to see in the future, we would require a 9 foot by 4 feet, 4.5 foot high above the stream bed precast concrete culvert. And the cost for replacement of this culvert was approximately $285,000. Those costs have been discussed with Stantec just as a kind of a backboard to make sure that the costs are reasonable. The second culvert question was Kate Wallace Road. That is a Class 3 road, and that culvert, it's a gravel road as Isley is. And that culvert washed out twice during the recent storm events, and the road was closed for multiple days. The existing culvert is a 24 inch by 36 inch corrugated metal pipe. It's undersized, and based on the hydraulic study, it's required to have a 6 foot wide by 4.5 foot high precast concrete culvert. The cost of this replacement is approximately $275,000. Union Village culvert near Partridge Road, right in town, is a Class 2 paved road. This culvert was overtopped, and partial of the ends were washed out during the storm events. This culvert is a 36 inch corrugated metal pipe. It's undersized, and it is estimated to require a 6 to 10 foot wide precast concrete culvert. That hydraulic study hasn't been finalized yet, so we anticipate it being in that area. And the cost, at least at this point, is approximately $350,000. Willie Hill is just up the road from that, and that sort of all combines together, as you probably can see as you drive down Main Street on Union Village. That's a Class 2 paved road. Actually, it's Class 3. That's Class 3. And this culvert was overtopped as well and damaged to recent storm events. It's an existing 18 inch HDPE pipe that's undersized, and that's going to require at least a 3 to 4 foot HDPE culvert. Estimated replacement cost is $40,000 to $50,000. Goes under the roadway. And the last one is Norford Lake near Ladue Road. It's Class 3 gravel road. And that's also had a long history of being overtopped and adjacent property, private property damaged multiple times, where we've been reimbursing damage to the adjacent property at various times. The culvert, the adjacent road, and the private driveway were damaged at least twice during the recent storm. The existing culvert is a 5 foot diameter corrugated metal pipe. It's undersized. We did a hydraulic study. It's estimated to require a 10 foot wide, 5 foot high precast concrete culvert. Estimated cost for replacement is $290,000. So basically, these culverts will be needing upgrade to prevent future damage to roadways and adjacent properties if the storms continue as such and continue as an intensity as they have, we will continue to face damage to our roads, and most importantly, some of these roads are main arteries through the town. If these roads are accepted by FEMA as qualifying damage events, and FEMA hasn't weighed in on this yet, of course, but we're working on that. Then the federal government will cover 75%, and the state will cover 12.5% of the total costs. The town would only be responsible for the final 12.5%. And based on the above amounts totaling about $1.25 million, total cost of the town would be approximately $160,000. And of course, the final cost, construction costs, are dependent upon the procurement process we'd use for the bidding, and we'd request bids under competitive bid process, and then these culverts would need to be replaced within 18 months of approval by FEMA. So these particular ones are, I think, problematic culverts, and I think we have an opportunity to get a significant amount of these really problematic culverts taken care of for a very reasonable price. And it's an opportunity that if we don't take, we could have the potential of missing out if a future event happens and we do not take this opportunity. I don't know that for sure, but there's that chance. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Chris. I have 3 questions, and I'm sure others do. So you mentioned that we were responsible for stormwater when you were talking about the class 4 road, but we've got class 2, 3, and 4 roads. Are we responsible for the stormwater for all of those on private property?
We're responsible for the stormwater, yes, for these roads, yes.
And where a culvert is under a driveway, I'm assuming that we're responsible, a private driveway, I'm assuming we're responsible for that because it's kind of like in the curtilage of the road.
Well, this one is an interesting one. The one that we're talking about probably, as you're referring to, is Willie Hill Road culvert. It actually, there's probably history to it. I don't know much about the history to it, but it does extend about, partially under a private driveway. I don't know how that happened in the past, but somehow that happened. But it's an artery that we need to upgrade, and we're going to have to dig it up and improve it. So, I think it's really the HESA. If we allowed it to happen in the past, it's our responsibility to upgrade it and replace it in kind.
Okay, and my last question is, when you list the costs, you're including labor paid to contractors, not our time, because we're not doing the work, right? But it includes the labor as well as the materials?
Yes, this is to do the project, bid it out, and provide it and install it and take care of it by a contractor.
Okay, thank you. Priscilla?
It was my impression that when Irene happened, 12 years ago, the FEMA at that point would only replace what you had instead of, we all learned that maybe they were insufficient. That's why we wanted bigger culverts, and FEMA wouldn't do that. And so I'm gonna hope, I'm asking, will FEMA now cover the cost of increasing something to what we think is actually necessary? Because these are double and triple in size what we've had. I would hope FEMA would be smart like that, but do you have any input on that?
Yes, FEMA does do that. They've changed since Irene. There's a lot of lessons that were learned, and yes, that is something that they do. So, as long as it's a qualifying event. And so whatever repair we do, the repair needs to be as such that we're doing it so that we don't have to come back to the table to them to ask anything else, that we're actually doing it per the requirements, in this case, a hydraulic study.
Just a question about the timeline for actually doing the work. It's, thinking about how we had Tiger Town done, we had Route 132 culvert done, and they did take some time. and you've got 5 of them, and you've got an 18-month window to do it. So how are you seeing this falling into place? Like if we approve this, the work would be done next summer?
More than likely.
I understand line up financing too, because FEMA only reimburses, right?
Correct. Correct.
So I just want to tag on to Mary's question. So
Did you get your answers?
I don't think she did.
Have Chris answer it and then follow up?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if he
Did you get Mary's question?
I didn't. What was the question one more time? I'm sorry.
It's just how the timeline would be managed, because they're 5 big projects, and would they all occur in, for instance, next summer? What your thoughts are on that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways to approach it. We could approach it as multiple projects, or we could approach it as just one particular project that we have 5 locations for upgrades. That way, that could build in some more interested parties, which would also create a more competitive environment, which would bring the cost down potentially even lower to than what we have here. But that remains to be seen. I think in terms of getting the project done in a timely manner, I think it's very possible to do it.
Okay, thank you.
But back up, I mean, we have to wait to see if FEMA, in order to do it with this kind of budget, right, with the budget you outlined, we have to wait until for FEMA to call this a qualifying event, which I understand for you has not happened, is that right?
Yeah, right now FEMA hasn't finally, oh, go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say, to clarify, so the qualifying event of the storm is a FEMA event.
Okay.
I think what Chris is saying is they would need to independently review this request and approve this request.
Which is what we're authorizing. But I guess my question is sort of similar to Mary's in the sense of, what is the town of Norwich's timeline should we not have the fortune of $1.6 million of culverts covered by the federal government? What is the actual realistic timeline for that?
You mean if we have to pay for it ourselves?
Yeah, you're not going to do $1.6 million of culverts this summer if we don't receive FEMA funds. So I guess my curiosity is, what then is the realistic schedule?
So in other words,
well, then,
triage.
Yeah, so I mean, at that point, if FEMA doesn't kick in the money, then what we have are 5 substantial culverts of significant price here, where we could approach it with, grant funding, which usually comes around every 2 to 3 years. Of course, with that, as you know, to get through this list on a structures grant, or even, partially contributing from some smaller culvert grants, it could take a substantial amount of time to work through this list, many, many years. And so then there's the risk, of course, of continued damage. So then the question becomes, does the town undertake some of these on its own? Of course, we're limited on some structures grants based on what would be approved and where that culvert is, and that would have to be determined by VTrans, and we wouldn't know that until they went through the process and reviewed our application. So if this is something that the town wanted to undertake itself, then we could map out a more realistic time frame, which would spread it out over, say, 5 years or something like that, which would, meter out the money in a little more of a realistic fashion.
Okay, thanks, that's helpful.
And Chris, do you know of the other 995 culverts in town that didn't overrun? Do you have like a top 5 that you're worried about? You don't have to name them, but I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we have a number of culverts, smaller culverts, right, that are undersized all through the entire town of Norwich. I mean, there's just a lot of them. I mean, I've got a huge booklet of culverts, and I'm working through that list. So every year when we get culvert grants, I just pick away at that list like we did on Beaver Meadow. You saw the 7 culverts we upgraded. You saw the 4 culverts we upgraded on New Boston. These are just our efforts to try to whittle away at that list. but those are smaller culverts, and I believe that those we can handle some cases in-house. In some cases, they're a step above what we can do, but they're not at the level of these projects. For instance, they're over a substantial bank. They require an excavator and more maybe technical expertise, like we had work done on Beaver Meadow. So it just varies.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm confused as to what we're being asked to do tonight. Are we authorizing him to pursue FEMA funding? But if that does not come through, then these don't happen. We come back to the drawing board and talk about how to move forward.
I will look at the proposed motion, that's what we're asking. To authorize the DPW director and town manager to pursue FEMA grants for the 5 identified culverts.
But my question is, what happens if we don't get those grants?
Well, I think Chris kind of answered it in
So
my question, which he'll have to come back with a plan potentially over the course of say 5 years.
Just trying
Restructure his
to
grants.
make sure I'm clear. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Do you want to add anything?
No, I think Chris was pretty concise about what the need is, and this is a good opportunity, in my opinion, to leverage a lot of funding that should be needed for work.
And this is going to mean making a decision, if we get this authorized, we have to make a decision, second step, how we're going to pay for it in the first instance, right, Mary?
And then I think with the storm damage in 2017, some of it we kind of stole from our reserve funds, which I don't think is a good idea, but we also took out a line of credit, and I think that would probably be the avenue more than a bond, because, if you anticipate that it's going to be paid back within, a year or two, you don't need to go 30 years with a bond. If that makes any sense?
Sure.
And it was about 1.2 million that we had as a line of credit to help with that 2017 storm. I think the full cost of that was more like 3.4 million, which when we compare that to our budget, it looks like an absolutely enormous amount of money. But we got through it. But I think, these things are going to happen again. Hemlock Road may also require a line of credit. I mean, we are going to have some serious money that has to be expended for these things. And also, if we have to go through the 5-year scenario, they may just wash out so that those costs are compounded. We may continue to get the storms and they can't flow through. So they may just continue to wash out and have to be, replaced at an additional cost. So I think this is an opportunity. It's very daunting to think about because these are large structures, these big box culverts.
We're just being asked to approve
Pursue the grants.
pursuing the grants. We're not
Exactly.
saying we're going to spend the money or
No.
we don't know what's going to happen. We find out if Chris can find the grant.
Exactly.
I think in the past why we're asked to approve grants is because it's acknowledging that the town's contribution exceeds the town manager's authorization of the finance policy. It's like, it's what, how much was it? Like $160,000. So I think it's to acknowledge that the board would have to sort of overseeing something that ultimately could cost us $160,000, although we're not authorizing that.
And in the
today.
short term, we're going to have to come up with a huge amount. So
Yeah.
that's the reason as well. So would anyone like to make a motion?
I will. I move to authorize the DPW director and the town manager to pursue FEMA grants for the 5 identified culverts in the DPW director memorandum dated October 6, 2023, and included in the October 2023 select board pack.
I'll second it. Thank you. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Good luck, Chris. Thanks,
Thank you,
Chris.
everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Second on that was Mary.
Yes.
Yes, it was. All right, that brings us to number 6, which is tabled, is the Recreation Council. And so we are now at number 7 to request an expense of the Records Restoration Fund. Brendan or Lily?
I will turn it over to our favorite.
Hi, sorry, I'm at home. I'm supervising homework and cooking this evening. So the state mandated the select board to create a fund from our land record recording. So every page that Judy records in our record books costs the person $15, 4 of which are given to Fund 45, which is reserved for restoration and digitization of our records. Currently, the fund has, I think, about $57,000 in it, and I'm asking to be able to expend $16,000 of those dollars and a little bit more to restore 8 old marriage books. I'm happy to take questions.
Okay. My question is just understanding that you've got a lot of old books, and you probably looked at them all. Is there some sort of triage that you've come up with, and you know, basically, how did you decide on these 8?
So marriage records are the only records that are kept at the town level as opposed to at the state level. So basically, these originals are the ones that exist, whereas the state handles births and deaths. So it was important for us to keep these usable, searchable. I've gone through the records. Judy is very familiar with their restoration efforts. We had someone from Visara, which is the Vermont State Records and Restoration group, come down here and look through our records. And over the course of the last, I think, 20 years, Bonnie has spent about $20,000 a year restoring things, getting things onto microfilm, and making sure that the records that are handled most frequently are in pretty good shape so they don't deteriorate further with handling.
Thank you. Any other questions for Logan? Priscilla?
Who developed this lovely form that summarizes, you know, what you want, how much it's going to cost, what fund, what's it? Who developed that?
Wow.
Thank you.
But it was.
Your illustrious chair has come up with.
Thank you. I hope it's used going forward.
That's the thing I was referring to that we'll be using.
I think if people are pleased with this, which I think it's all the information that people have asked for as as people are making requests for funds, is kind of in one place here. And it's something we can just hand out to department heads when they can request. It'll just be kind of the business of this is how it's done.
It should help your office so that, you know, the stuff that people want, they should know what they've gotten and when it was approved, and you can just check it.
So thank you, Lily, for being the guinea pig here.
You're a modular user.
For attempts.
I'm sure feedback will be appreciated by the town manager's office. All right, so if there's no more discussion, is there a motion?
I move to authorize the expenditure of $16,365.50 from the Record Restoration Designated Fund number 45 for the restoration of 8 marriage books.
Thank you. Second, by Pam. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much, Lily.
Thank you.
Back
Back to homework, yeah.
and homework, the real work. Number 8, request to expend fire equipment fund monies for fire equipment.
I will just say that we have Chief Northern and we have Matt Sweat here, and I'm not sure which one of you wants to take this and present, but either one.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and start. Good evening, everybody. Can't much add to what's in black and white. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So we have a new engine that's going to be delivered in mid-November or so, and we need to upfit it with new equipment as is detailed in the request. I'm not sure how much you want me to embellish what I've said. The memo is pretty straightforward and succinct, gives you what we need, what we got, and what it costs.
Looks very straightforward. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
He didn't have that new form, did he?
No. Any questions? No questions? All set. All set? That was easy. Do we have a motion?
I vote to authorize the expenditure of $31,049.74 from the Norwich Fire Department Equipment Designated Fund, number 01-5-
That's the wrong account.
Oh,
Well, that was in here, so that's why I put it down.
Yeah, it's wrong.
okay. Yeah, that's correct. Or
It's,
should we
it's,
leave that?
it's fund number,
Matt, do you have it?
I think that's, they designate the funds in two different ways.
What is it that you need?
It could be, they might also call it, I think it's fund number 26.
it is 26, fund 26.
But there is a number designation when we do allotments for it too, and that's the number that we use.
It's on our handy fund balance report that we got in our packet, and there's $90,275 in it.
Exactly.
All right, so
wait,
for the minutes, we go with fund number 26, would that be accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, and can I insert something here that is on the memo here? It's, even though the total is 31,049.74, we're asking for 31,100, which is in the memo up there, only because the prices might have fluctuated a little bit. Because we're buying it from Home Depot and some of them were on special when we wrote this proposal.
Maybe I should say up to 31,100.
That would be perfect.
That's not much of a margin.
Yeah, we were only getting one item that was on special, and I just wanted to make sure that if it went off special, then we still did.
Okay.
Okay, maybe I should start over once again. I move to authorize the expenditure of $31,100 from the Norwich Fire Department Equipment Designated Fund number 26 for items designated in the Fire Chief's memorandum dated October 19th, included in the October 25th, 2023 Select Board packet.
Thank you. Do we have a second? I'll second. Second by Pam. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you for appearing tonight, gentlemen.
Can I say
Yes.
congratulations to Chief Northern for his designation as one of not so many, I forget what they called you, but something wonderful. You did a whole bunch of training and recognition. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Big.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I was going to mention that when we got to the report section, but since you're here, we echo that sentiment. We're very proud of the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, just so I'm clear. Just so I'm clear, so we're scratching out the fund number 015555, et cetera.
Yes.
And just replacing that with fund number 26?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And the amount is different as well. It's
I got that.
31. All right, number 9, the family place alcohol waiver is off tonight, and so that gets us to item number 10, the Sullivan and Powers Amended engagement letter. Brennan?
So there was a brief memo from our finance director, Barry, and I think I talked about this already, so is there any questions about it? We're just looking to re-sign a updated engagement with our auditor.
Any questions, Pam?
In reading the document from the auditors under fee arrangements, it says our fee for the single audit will be $6,000 for one major program and $4,000 for each additional. I'm assuming that it's just the one.
I believe it's just a
So it's $6,000 would be the fee for this single audit.
Any other questions?
This isn't the contract, this is the engagement letter, right? Okay.
Which as I understand it, is only required because there is that federal funding. Okay.
The reason I asked the question is because the fee is not in the motion, so I'm just wondering, should that amount be in the motion?
Could be.
I would suggest leaving, because we don't know, again, my understanding is it's one item, $6,000, but I would say we would approve this as just as presented in the engagement letter, and then somehow there is an additional cost there. There's no discrepancy.
Are we going to overspend the line item for audit then? Is this going to be booked to audit?
We look to audit, and everyone might spend that.
It's already a very expensive audit, but that's fine.
Right, but we budgeted the 28.6, which is what's in the engagement letter. So this would be an additional 6,000 or an over expenditure of the audit line item because of the requirement for the federal audit. Okay.
Happens in budgets.
Just trying to be clear of where we're going to book it.
Would someone like to make a motion? You want to go for it, Priscilla?
Okay, Roger's so silent tonight. Okay, I move to authorize the town manager to execute the engagement letter with Sullivan Powers and Company to perform a single audit as required by the town's expenditure of $750,000 or more in federal funds in the fiscal year currently under audit.
I'll second it. Thank you, Mary. Any more discussion? Call a question, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you very much. All right, then we had reports submitted by police, fire, recreation, and IREC, which I think that Brendan has touched on. And I don't think I have anything else to add. My only question is, as to the IREC report, do you know, Brendan, who would instigate the EV charger contract review?
That is underway. Jeff Brown, our consultant, is
Great. Any other questions, Pam?
I just want to reiterate my request that when reports are submitted by department heads, that we have a month and year, and that we have the name of the person submitting the report. Recreation says September report, no year, and it's not signed. So I think for archival reasons, I think that that information is important.
I mean, do we have letter? I mean, like,
We do.
it's,
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Well, at least
Seems like we should just use it if we have it.
But the letterhead doesn't, month and year, and it doesn't give you the signature of the person who's submitting the report. And, I've mentioned this several times, and yet we continue to see reports. I mean, here's one from Jeff Grout, September 2023, signed by Jeff Grout. We have one from the chief, we have one from the fire chief, one from the police chief, and they're signed, they're dated. It's just basic.
I think it's good too.
Yeah.
I even do that with my students. Name a date, and then I know what they've done on September 15th as opposed to January 2nd or something.
Right. But September of what year,
Oh, they do the year too.
Yeah.
I will certainly pass that on, and normally we don't sign memos, so I don't.
Just the name of the person, it's my pet peeve.
Fair enough.
I mean, if we ever do like a new website, it would be fun to do like some kind of nominal branding exercise that just makes like some visual identity for the town, right? And then department heads can have that, it would be automated, they would heat of this.
I've been through a couple of the new logo branding.
We don't need like a Windows-y onion or whatever.
We certainly don't.
But something along the lines.
Okay, we're now on discussion items. I included, as you know, 2 items, the draft handbook that is in progress. As you can see, it's still being structured, so I haven't been anything like Pam submitted some information I'm still unearthing what groups there are out there, and since I did this one, I thought, oh, yes, we also have a town, what's the tree warden, we also have the health officer. So I'm still building the structure. The position descriptions I found embedded in the website under the Conservation Commission, and I thought that was interesting because they had some charges that I couldn't find it elsewhere. So all of this is incomplete. Those position descriptions or charges may well be out of date, and I would just say take it on board, and as we schedule a time in the future, we'll review all of this and probably with the different groups. If you think this is going in the wrong direction, let me know, because I don't want to waste my time doing stuff that people don't feel has any merit, but that's where we are. Yeah.
I'm wondering when the town website will be updated with current information. There are several departments and committees that are woefully out of date.
Well, let's get the whole thing in order first so we know what we think we have, and then see what Brennan's got for an idea.
Yeah, I mean, we can input new data. Lily Brennan has actually done a lot of work recently on the website, which is making that looking function a lot better. And I'm sure that updating little things once we have correct information.
Yeah, and we should also have a mechanism for updating the website as we make these decisions. We're appointing people to committees and it's not being captured on the website. I would think that when these minutes are produced, if something was approved by the select board, then that change would happen on the website. Like Finance Committee, we've appointed 2 people who are not reflected here.
And it's a workflow issue that Brennan's office can, figure out.
Right.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to get like a current, this is what we have as of today, and then it becomes a lot easier to say, okay, we made a change, let's update that, and keep that on. So I think Marcia's suggestion is let's get this exercise completed and have all of the updated information, get it onto the website, and then keep it.
I think it's also there's a lot of records retention issues from what I understand, this is not uncommon when you have WordPress websites from what I understand, right? So in some cases, the website has documents where the website is the retainer of the record because it can't necessarily be found anywhere else, like on, say, the server or in someone's desktop. And so I'm sure Marcia's seeing this now when she puts together charges, she's finding it in a bunch of different places. And so, so I don't think, when we say like update the website, like I think probably the template is probably taking as far as it can without someone who has an eye towards some kind of record retention of these documents. I think it would need to be downloaded off of the WordPress website and then seeing what is to be preserved and then what is to be, offed. So I think it's a massive project. I think you could add a staff member who is just assigned to that endeavor. So I think we should kind of give pause to, I want to see the website updated. I think we need to understand it in a larger conversation.
Well, my point is, in January of 2021, 3 people resigned from the Finance Committee. They're still on here.
Yeah.
We've appointed 2 new people that are not on here. And if I were one of those 2 people, I would wonder how much the town values my offer of volunteerism because I'm not showing up here. I only remember the name of one of the 2 people we appointed. I don't remember the other person or when it happened, but I believe it was sometime in the last 7 or 8 months. So the other one was more than a year ago.
Well, hopefully they understand that we are just getting our hands around this.
Is this actually any part of anyone's formal job description, website maintenance? Probably not.
No, it's kind of been, I think, a town manager, the planning department has Pam, and she's doing updates. So it's kind of a work of a group that It's not as
I
coordinated.
think it's actually in the job description of the administrative assistant to the town manager. It
So
is.
Lily has a handout, we might have some website docs.
I'll get to you in just a minute, Lily. One thing that I think is very important is that we get our hands around who is appointed and who isn't appointed. This is coming up in, I noticed it in the Affordable Housing Committee, there's only one person that's on the Planning Commission. I don't know how the other people got onto that. But they're putting together a grant, because I try and look at other people's minutes, and they're putting together a grant application, which I think is going to come to us, which makes some representations about the select board selling property, and which we can't do. I did some research on that today, and I think that has to actually be voted by the voters. And so I'm a little bit worried. It's not a new thing, and it's not just about that particular subcommittee, but who's out there doing what, and how much effort are they wasting, because whatever they think they're going to accomplish is impossible. So I really think there's some urgency to getting our hands around this. Lily, did you have something to offer?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've been going through the website and trying to update committee pages, but it's sometimes extremely hard, even going through the appointment and oath book that I have in the vault, trying to figure out who was appointed when. And I started giving you those appointment letters in the hopes that we would then have a consistent record of who was appointed for what position. But that's, just picked up again this year after a few years of not doing anything. I do have a spreadsheet I can give you if you want, that has all of the oaths in the oath binder and the appointments in the appointment binder, which is a start, but it's sort of a mess.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is a bit of a mess, so.
So my issue was there were resignation letters that then were not transmitted to the clerk and were not incorporated into the appointment binder, indicating that people had resigned. So some of them are appointments that I think are no longer valid, but I have no evidence they're not valid, and I frankly don't know who's on which committee enough to tell you what's going on. The other thing that Vermont State Archives has been pushing is the retention plan, which is supposed to take the form of a spreadsheet. I just finished one for the clerk's office. It's, as they like to tell you, a living document. It's very nice for when you want to delete things from the website, because some things are stored on the website and they don't have to be permanently stored on the website. And I would encourage the town manager's office to look into forming a retention plan for you guys.
Good tip. Good tip.
Yeah, I think that's all right.
Now,
I'm happy to share mine.
Lily, anything that you have that you think would be helpful in this handbook process, would you please send it on?
Yeah, I'll pass it on to Debbie if you want, or to who do you want me to pass it on to?
Moi.
Okay, I will send it to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for helping with the website. She's gone.
Is it our connection or everyone else's connection?
I don't know.
The Wi-Fi is kind of laggy in this tonight, yeah.
Okay.
Just check.
All right. Any more on that particular item? Thank you for all this work. It's really been fun. I actually feel that way. All right. So unless there's any other business, we do have Mary something.
Well, I have a question about our future meeting dates, because I heard tonight, I think when Brennan was talking about Joyce coming in for our budget meetings, I was hearing 6 to 8, not 6:30.
Well, that's totally, we should probably lock that in, just so people can get it on calendar.
I just wanted to know, I just thought we should talk if that's easier for Joyce, or if that's the plan. I just want to know.
I think it's really up to this board. I think Joyce will be there when you're out there and get it. But if it was easier to do it at 6 and not go as late, that would probably be okay with me.
So to be clear, we said, or we talked about making this like an hour and a half focus, so that we're not like spinning our wheels.
Yeah.
And there will undoubtedly be business that's brought in, comes into your office that has to be handled like whatever.
I mean, we have regular meetings that are in this schedule, so I would assume that those would be meetings where we would conceivably meet here, as people would have other business, and then we would go from the business of the night to the budget in those opportunities, and then we have a couple other dates where we get kind of specific times that would be just for the budget, and that would be, again, potential to do those remotely, so people don't have to come in, we didn't have to go through the setup here. I think Joyce will be joining us remotely at all of these meetings, and then we'll have, obviously, the ability to have her share screens and work through spreadsheets and kind of manipulate data as we work through it. So that was my thought. Again, the time to start could be 6:30 as normal. It could be 6 for the special meetings. Maybe it's simpler to do it at 6:30, so it's all consistent.
Okay.
Can you share a little bit more about like how these meetings are running? You mentioned Joyce manipulating data. I don't love the workshop feel. So can you fill me in what your plans are?
I think it's going to evolve as we get into this. My thought is, again, Joyce has created some very sophisticated spreadsheets that
and the tables, okay.
Yeah, the tables, similar to what you had last year, right? So I think those were helpful as, with Joyce kind of controlling those. People could ask questions, people could make suggestions, hypothetical, what if this changed, what does that do? And again, I think we'll kind of see how we go after a meeting or two as far as how productive that is, but that was my thought.
So do you have a presentation for us on the first budget meeting about the total budget?
I think what we talked about was the first meeting on the 8th, we were going to look at the capital planning.
Okay.
That's one piece of the budget. We may or may not have time to then get into kind of a first flush of the operational budget, and if we don't, then that would be the topic for the next meeting there, which would be that would be the 15th.
Okay, I guess what I'm hoping for is like a process that is really presented and led to us, because it will otherwise devolve into 5 individuals sharing opinions on, as you say, complicated documents. So I would really like, I guess what I'm advocating for a strong presentation with a very clear directive, and hopefully a clear directive has emerged from our work to you. And then we can ask questions, but anyway, I think you get the gist. I mean, Mary knows more than the rest of us, but this is my 4th one, and I've only ever seen one go well.
Yeah. Well,
to be blunt.
I hope to change the trend. I will say, and I've seen some of the draft stuff that's coming back, is that this level-funded budget, or this, we're going to try to cap this at a certain number, I suggested 6%, is going to require a lot of work.
Right.
Because what I'm seeing coming in with people's expectations of their needs and wants is not 6%, and it's not level-funded. It's what it is.
Okay, so how are you changing their expectations?
Well, I want to give people a chance.
Oh, God. Okay, I'm telling you.
I want this board to be able to look at what the department heads are presenting. And I think it's probably going to be a discussion that is going to be, we can't take this or accept this, it has to come back. But I think if I don't give people a chance to present this, it's going to be very difficult to work through the budget. And I've again tried to be very clear that there is at least an expectation from some people on the board that this has to be a very austere budget. And I also have heard from people about what they feel they really need to run their departments, and it does not match perfectly, and I think that's where we're going to have a discussion.
So I just want to be clear that you're beginning this discussion with a communication from 5 people who were elected you know, such as they are, from the people about a level funded, austere budget, as you say. And we're going to now see presentations that are the exact opposition.
I haven't put that together yet, so
okay,
I don't want to present that.
I really, like, I think that is, I think it's really bad for everyone.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm in a tough position here. And
Yes, that's your job. You're being compensated accordingly.
I am trying to present, again, what I'm hearing from the department heads appropriately. And I'm also hearing from you and other board members that this has to be a tight budget. So there is at present not a match there, and I will work on this as we come into our first.
That's great to hear that you'll work on it.
So I think, you know, one of the things we have to keep in mind is that our employees want to be heard. And I think from what I've heard in the past, they want to make sure that the select board is hearing that as well. And what I'm hearing Roger say is he maybe doesn't want to hear that. He wants it to be the sausage to be made in the town manager's office.
I do. I mean, I want, you know, I want that balance that you're saying that you're going to struck to have been made prior to a presentation. I do not want to see individual department head budgets that are 25. I don't want to see double digits from these department heads. Like, I expect that they do have needs that should be expressed, but I would hope that in your office, because you had the benefit of a preview from us, to do as you say, temper. And so if that is done, then I'm good, because of course we want to hear from our employees. But I just like, I mean.
Well, I feel
everybody knows
we might have you know, expectations on the part of the board that we can have a level funded astute budget that don't match up with our realities. And that is a thing that I think as the town manager, I need to present in the fact that we have capital expenses here that I think have probably been deferred, that are now shown a light on, and we're gonna, you know, there's no way we're gonna keep capital expenditures under a double digit. I don't think that's possible. We can be creative, I think, about how we plan for those and fund those. The operating budget, I think, is a little bit simpler to say, here's where we need to stay. But again, I'm trying to hear people's comments throughout the process. And we will, I think we really just need to wait and let me come in to this meeting to present what we have.
Okay. And Priscilla, what did you want to add?
A couple of things. I think we've heard from 4 members of the board, not 5, about budget priorities. I would like to have Barry engaged in this with us very much, because she's going to administer the budget. And I personally would very much like to hear, maybe it's 2 budgets from each department. Like, what would you really like to have, you know, because what are your goals? And so what do you think you need to accomplish that? And if we put you under a thumb screw, and because we're all terrified of our tax bills next year and what we're going to do to the taxpayers. But, you know, if you have to level fund it, then what would you do? So we can see why you want this and what would happen if you had to do that. And we may be able to work something out. And yes, it's very important for department heads to know that we're listening to them and paying attention. And maybe, you know, maybe we'll say, we think you really need to have some more of what you need, and you know, you're being a little too lush. But that's the only way we can figure it out, if we let them say, this is what I really think I need to do, and here's why, versus, okay.
But they should, their job is to talk to their boss, their town manager, and I'm asking the person that he reports to, which is us, for something very specific. And what I'm hearing is we may or may not get it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, let's just hear what the rest of the board wants, because you and Priscilla have different opinions. Pam, where do you fall?
I'm wondering if we're going to have presentations from the department heads, or if some of the Roger's advocating that we don't hear from department heads, that we hear only from the town manager. Historically, we've heard from the department heads, who have defended their budget, if you will. And as I said in an earlier meeting, I don't need them to read me every line item in their budget, but I would like them to defend any increase that they've come to us with, so that we can understand what is that increase. And the other thing that I would point out is in the year that there was no guideline established by this board about budgets, we saw a 17% increase. So I think it's important that the board does set some kind of guideline so that, we don't have people putting in their Christmas wish list.
So you're in between the two of them. You want some information, but not.
I mean, I want to see presentations, but I don't want any.
He's not been recognized. I'm recognized.
I thought you asked me a question, Marsha, excuse me. So I want the town manager to do what I perceive to be his job, which is take our directive and to materialize it with department heads. I don't want these direct emotional appeals from department heads to individual board members. I want them to speak in collaboration with their boss, who will then communicate the expectations that we have communicated. I wrote separately to Brennan with what I expected to see. I want around 6%. All right, so look, that doesn't mean we benefit from hearing from our personnel and our staff about, and we need to ask them questions. But I don't want them to defend their budget. I don't want them to feel like they need to defend their budget. I want them to feel supported and compromised or worked out with their superior, their boss. Doesn't mean I don't respect them or want to hear from them. I want an orderly process that's in line with our form of government.
Well, I think it would be good to shoot for 6%, and if we get into the double digits, I think that's scary. So somewhere in there, so a happy medium or an unhappy medium, it's probably more an unhappy medium. Because we all like to hold down the costs. And they're just gonna be, there are gonna be some areas where there's been deferred maintenance. There are gonna be areas where things cost more, because they just do, So it's always really messy. It's really hard, I think, to sort it out.
The question, I think, Mary, is do you expect that, are you in line with Roger? Do you want Brennan to have done all the messy work, or do you want us to be here? And
I don't think Brennan can do all the messy work. I think he could probably weed out some of it. But I think we're going to have to be involved in the mess as well, or the creative budgeting, whatever.
I agree with that. So I would say, I think, Brendan, what you're hearing is that the board is expecting you to do your best to get things, carved, but there will be some things that people will be asking for and feel probably pretty passionate about, that if you want us to hear that and they want us to hear that, the majority, I think, want to hear that.
Okay. Well, I will just say, if we want to keep qualified folks here, we want to retain them, we want to attract new ones, we have to provide a good working environment for them to proceed in. And in many cases, I think, again, we're going to be asked to make expensive commitments. And I'm being told if it's over 6% of an increase, don't bring it into the board at the time we're doing our employees a service. We'll have some retention issues. Candidly, I think people, the issue of wages has come up. Are we at market rate? Is that why we're having a hard time attracting and retaining? There's no way we can adjust those wages and stay under an arbitrary threshold, I don't think. So there's going to be a give and take within a budget, or if wages go up, what goes down. I hear people, I recognize that there's an interest in coming in as late as we can. I have expressed that to each department head at a prior meeting, prior to our first phase of what do you need. I'm just saying what I've seen come back is not matching that, and I will have to work within my capacity to try to get our expectations more in line with the select boards. That's all I can say.
Okay.
And we'll work through we got a month and a half. We will come up with an appropriate budget somehow.
So can we plan that for every one of these meetings, we've got 4 in November. We're going to put the budget first, so that we will not be tired.
That would be fine, yeah, I'm sure if we're willing to do that for the regular meetings, then we can allocate an hour and a half and say, at 8 o'clock, we'll begin the normal meeting.
Okay, so how do you all feel about that? Start at 6:30 for regular meetings, an hour and a half we spend on budget, and then whatever else we need to do that's not budget.
Sounds good.
Okay?
So we might then want to kind of intentionally curtail some of the regular pieces of this, and I guess work with you, Marcia, to prioritize what needs to be on here and what can wait.
And then we've got,
these are not correctly labeled as whether they're regular or special.
well, we told that. Roger, you first.
So, Brennan, can we expect to see, are you advocating for salary line adjustments for department heads?
I have had requests for those salary lines to be adjusted. I have not ruled on that, and I would like, as I said earlier, to complete this wage compensation study that we're paying money for, so that we can get a real third-party updated opinion on where we are. And if we're way low in certain areas, I think it probably is a conversation about making an adjustment there. I think if we're right on, then we're okay. We've got this ongoing negotiation. We will have new rates there at some point before hopefully the 2025 budget occurs. And if, I think that's where we're going to find ourselves is we're either where we need to be and we're good, or geez, we're off and we really need to think about how we adjust this in order to remain viable and competitive in a hard labor market.
So then this is my final point, because I'm trying to understand the process that we're embarking on. So if there's any recommendation, if you have any recommendations on that, because I think, as I said, I consider salary and any proposed changes to these salaries part of our obligations. And so I would like to know more about these kinds of costs as a separate question from everything else. So if we're beginning a budget process where the potential should be 10, 11, 12% increase in just personnel, then I need to know these kinds of questions on the top. I can't get into a long presentation from the department head where they materialize their wishes for a successful department when I have that number that I know that I need to honor and do. And so that's why I'm so precious about this process, because it's a disservice to our employees, particularly if they don't feel like they're being heard, to present what they need, and then we get somewhere in that process, these core obligations needing to change. They need to that needs to be a whole meeting front and center if we're seeing personnel changes. And as I've said to you, we should have an executive session to know where we are with collective bargaining, because that is also one of our obligations. So I'm hearing that you want to make changes to salary lines. I'm theoretically supportive of it, with or without necessarily the compensation study, but that needs to be top of everything before I hear about equipment and MailChimp and tennis courts. That's everything. So do you understand?
I do understand.
Okay, and I'll stop.
I just want to make sure everybody else is agreeing, because that's your opinion, and I have no problem with coming in to this first meeting about operations with here's my salary request from our folks, and that might be a big number. And then again, you're hearing that up front, and I think it would be nice to make decisions quickly on, can we honor that? Can we pursue that? Again, I feel we're making decisions right now without the data that we need to support it. The timing I can't change right now. Maybe it makes sense to hold on some of that discussion until the end of November, when we can say, here's where we need to be. And this is not just somebody's request. This is going on the facts and data that we've just compiled.
I'm just letting you know what data I want to see first.
First.
Okay?
And
I
first,
hear you,
we will see
yes.
salaries.
Yeah, consider that to be our chief obligation.
Okay, well, there's operating budget of salaries and benefits.
Yeah.
There's this whole separate piece of capital needs. That's where I thought we would start. Will the board want to not do the capital pieces first and start with the operational?
Well, I guess my question to my colleagues is, what are our core obligations? Marcia's used the term keeping the lights on. So what does that actually mean? We need material examples from each of us. So for me, like, the status quo is very much changing from what you're previewing to me. The potentially our COLA and certainly our collective bargaining may or may not be changing, and also salaries of personnel. So I need to see that data so I can say, like, okay, this is manageable in the context of everything else, or this is really what we are presenting to our voters for this year. And then it could be a very easy budget process, and then, like, people who are following our happenings will very much know why we are making these decisions, right, for workplace culture. But I also, there's lots of things I want to talk about in terms of salaries and personnel. I would want to make sure that our employees are being reviewed on an annual basis, which to my understanding has never happened in many, many years. So there's other conversations that need to be happen if we were to entertain that idea. So I'm saying to my colleagues, and yes, Amended, right, everyone's doing it, these are our core obligations, that is the status quo. I need to see that data before everything else. And to Priscilla's point, that would also involve collective bargaining to the extent that we have or have not had information. So that's it. Like, I can't hear about bridges and cruisers and everything else if people want to be paid more, right?
Well, here's my problem. I sort of.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
I try to schema, like a budget overview number, and then breaking it down in bubbles, salaries and fixed expenses and things like that.
That's good.
The problem is, I really feel that we need to have that compensation study, which we're not going to have on day one, because I would rather have some data to back up saying no to somebody before I just do it, because I think that sounds right. So I think that we can't necessarily start out with those salary figures. I also think that we've got some real issues. We put a Band-Aid on the DPW building. We've got expensive equipment that's sitting out in the snow, which could probably be fixed with a 3-sided machinery shed.
Okay.
Things like that I think help keep our lights on.
Okay.
And so I think it's not as easy as just saying we absolutely need all the people that we have, and we absolutely have to pay them this much. I think we have to look at things more holistically, and that's not pleasant, but I'm interested to see how Brandon can do that for us.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I asked about the VLCT compensation study is that if we look at towns of similar size, we should be able to get some feel for what these various positions are paid in similar towns.
That's what we're paying our own compensation study for.
They'll use that data.
Right, but before we get that compensation study, this VLCT study could help us.
The VLCT study, and I've reviewed it, and I've looked at certain positions that are raised. It's difficult to know if you're comparing apples to apples in some cases, like the data gets moved in. Not all positions are the same. Not all the positions have the same duties. So I think it's a great resource. It's nice to have. It's the most updated topical information we have right now. Again, we're paying whatever it is, $16,000 to have somebody come in, ask the questions of like towns around the state, come back with a report, which I think, again, if our response is good, we're going to have that by the end of November. I would like to see that as well as the VLCT incorporated into that study. And so we're not guessing. We're not saying, wow, geez, there's a town with 3,500 people and they only pay their police chief, as an example, $80,000. So police chiefs are worth $80,000 in small towns, right? We don't have some of those nuances that I think we need to understand. So again, timing as it is, I wish we had this study done in July and we could have all had a chance to really understand it, to recognize where we were, and then we begin this fiscal year 25 budget with kind of a firm grasp on reality. I think we're kind of guessing right now. We've got people guessing on their end, and we're going to do the best we can in the situation we're in.
Yeah, and I think it's more respectful to talk to people when you have data that's meaningful. And, you know.
100% agree. It's very hard for me to say that's not realistic, or I'm going to have to tell you no without knowing whether that is actually realistic. Saying yes, or again, we lose somebody that would be massive for our town, and they move down the road somewhere else.
Right.
And then again, how do we attract folks into some of these still open positions? You know, it's not all compensation, but that's a big part of it.
And we don't want to be in the same position that we just went through, where people are leaving and people in town don't understand why people are leaving. I think if we're clear with the people and we do our best to get good data and we work through a process, you know, deliberately, then anyone who wants to stay here will stay here.
I would hope.
So it's not any clearer to me like how we're doing this process, but we'll wait and see is what I'm hearing.
I'm confused too.
Okay, I'm confused. I'm sorry if I've added obfuscation.
And I think we all understand what you hope to have, and I would like to have that nice and packaged, but I don't think it's possible.
It's just there's just no clear goal at the start of what we're working towards. It seems like we're going to hear a lot of things and then hopefully not be crunched for time at the end and trying to make a deliberative decision. And I've seen like how that happens, right?
So to assist me,
yeah,
tonight. So Roger has said 6% is where he would like to see our operational budget or our total budget. I think it makes sense to break these out individually because I think that there are two moving pieces here. Does everybody else think that that's a reasonable benchmark? Because I can try to work off of that and tell people you can't come in with 10% or 15% or 20%. It's got to be down here. That makes it a lot easier for me to work with my department heads right now. So is that a number? Is it 7? Is it 8? Is it 2? I mean, I guess that would be really helpful. I only heard Roger kind of express 6. So I just want to know what target I'm shooting for here.
Well, in my opinion, you've got some things that are fixed, that are beyond our control.
Well, unfortunately, we have a 3.8 COLA.
Yes.
So with a 3.8 COLA, just where we are with existing salary rates, we have very little room to assuming everybody stays on in their positions, that would give us a 2% wiggle room for everything else in the budget, like new cars, like new equipment.
No, that's not true. Only 45% of our budget is personnel. So it's 3.8% of 45%, it's not 100%.
But we're using that COLA on most of these fixed costs that we're looking at right now, at least in the iteration that I'm seeing. So if we don't have an example of we need exactly this, we're building in that 4% as kind of a benchmark of increasing costs. So again, with that said, that does not leave us much room under a 6% threshold to do much at all.
And the 2% increase for DPW is not going to protect machinery that's outside.
Well, again, that's just the operational piece, and these capital investments that are going to be big ticket items are going to be a whole lot more than 4%. So.
I think Brendan, you can't have a proposed budget where each department is coming with 15% increases outside of their wages, because that the presentation of that kind of budget is very unwieldy.
I hear you.
To us, we're only human,
I
right?
have the marching orders that is not what we're presenting. So I'm gonna have to look at what is coming in with Joyce and then figure out how do we cut that back to where it's a manageable number.
Well, the other thing I suppose you could do is think, we know we have to plow the roads and keep them safe. We know we have to fix culverts so they don't overrun. And we know that we have to have Tracy Hall functioning. But anything else, and we need to have the police, but that's kind of out of our ballpark because that's under collective bargaining. And we need to have some fire protection. Anything that we can think of that is discretionary, maybe that has to be given less attention. Yeah.
There are a number of things that are unknown for next year. One is we have a reappraisal that's supposed to be done as of April 1. So no one knows where their property values are going to be and how that's going to impact their tax bill. We also have an increase coming for the pupil weighting on the school side of the tax bill. From what I heard at the last school board meeting, that's supposed to be capped at 5% per year.
Was that passed? Was not a bill in the legislature? It was pending?
I don't know if it's definitive or if it's aspirational, but there was talk of a 5% cap per year for 5 years to ease us into these increases. And that's been talked about from the very beginning, that it would be, stepped up. I'm still not clear on what's going to be presented when, but as far as the capital budget, what I envision on a capital budget is how much money do you have now? What is it that you need? When do you need it? And are we setting money aside for that? And if it's needed before you accumulate enough money, then we have to deal with that aspect. But we also have $1.7 million or thereabouts in an unrestricted, undesignated fund balance. And we have to determine before we go to the town voters, what are we going to do with that money? Are we going to, invest it in Tracy Hall? Are we going to use it to help buy down the tax rate? What are we doing with that 1.7 million?
Brennan has talked about how he's going to present that.
Yeah. I mean, those are the
but we won't have the architectural study. We won't have any idea of what Tracy Hall needs or what those associated costs will be in time for the town warrant, which is what I said at the last meeting. We may end up doing a special town meeting in order to present what's needed here and ask the voters for approval to move forward on that. Because there's no way we're going to have that information by the middle of January.
More reasons to status quo.
So Brandon, you have the...
Well, I would still like to hear from other people about a number, because again, I feel like I've heard from Roger, I hear from Roger, 6% is Roger's number. I just, is that reasonable for other people right now, or is the majority of the board more flexible on where we come in?
I guess what I was saying was, I don't think it's possible to say across the board 6% everybody. It may be that somebody gets 0 and somebody else gets more.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
But Brendan has to make this decision.
Right.
I don't want to make this decision.
6%
especially in this political climate.
Right, isn't it, Roger, that 6% overall, so some would get less, some might get more. Well, Roger,
Which department has the most pressing needs through your experience as town manager?
I think Roger, you have this job and you have to take the heat, and we have a job and we have to take some heat too.
Yeah, and I'm not taking 14% increases.
No.
So just saying, I'm not taking that heat.
There was one, at least one budget process where we asked for a 10% cut, just as an exercise. We tried that, and then,
And it was deemed ridiculous and never tried again.
Yeah, I know. But just in terms of the number, I think 6 is going to be hard. I think, I don't like double digit, but I think it's going to be higher than 6. I just don't think with costs increasing in every direction, that's going to actually be possible. So maybe try to shy away from double digits, but I would allow more wiggle room than 6.
Yeah, under 10 maybe.
That's a much more realistic number. Under 10, that's a big number, I realize. That is our threshold, and I think we have the ability to keep people happy and feeling like they are, or hearing what they need to have to fulfill their obligations.
So that's just me and Roger, but the rest of you guys.
Priscilla?
I think 6, nobody likes the taxes to go up. But 6 sounds kind of tight, maybe under 10 is better, but I still, maybe nobody else agrees with me, I would still like to hear from each department head saying, here's a budget I feel is responsible and is cost, as cost conscious as possible, but here's what I would like. And here's why. And it's not just because I want them to be heard. I do think it's very good. But I have also had experience where somebody says, oh, this is the most I can spend. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're trying to buy a house or if you're running an ad campaign. And if somebody presents you with something that's so good and makes so much sense and has such long-term value, you sometimes say, that's worth it. And health insurance costs. I mean, we don't even know what they're going to be, but they're going to be horrible. And they're already causing a lot of grief to a number of our employees. I would still like each department head to be able to come in and say, I wish I could do, and this is why.
So would you say under 10? We're trying to fit figures.
I guess, but it might not be realistic. And if they think something has to be more, then make me a case.
So I'm under 10, you're under 10, and we're listening. Mary's under 10. Mm-hmm. That's 3 of us. Roger's 6, Pam? I don't want to put a number on it. Okay.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
So under 10 is the majority.
The whole thing will be uncomfortable.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I'm trying to protect everyone in this process.
Well, listen, I think this is helpful because now we have kind of a goal and a target, and it makes it a little easier for me to be able to work through this with individual department heads about, again, what I'm hearing is their needs. Again, we're very candid that we can't be asking for exorbitant things right now. It's not the year for that, and tell people every year.
Yes.
That's again, I think helpful to me to be able to come back, and we will work. And Joyce is kind of back in the saddle here in the next week on how do we present this most effectively.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Great. So are we going to start with the capital budget or not?
I think that was our original plan.
Yeah, we stick it with that one.
I mean, presenting this capital budget doesn't hold us to.
No, but it's a helpful thing to start somewhere.
And if the capital budget says it's 20%, then we'll have to say,
oh,
that's our.
Prioritize.
So now I've just gone through, and the 2nd and the 4th of the month are regular meetings. So I think 11/8 is a regular, 11/15 is a special, 11/21 is a special, 11/29 is and 21 is a special because it's a Tuesday and a Wednesday. 11/29 is a special, 12/6 is a special, 12/13 is a regular. So we've now agreed that we're going to start at 6:30 for the regular meetings with an hour and a half for the budget to begin with, and then whatever else business needs to be attended to. And for the special meetings, do we want to keep it at 6:30 or do we want to move it up to 6?
I don't like meeting before 6:30. That's
hard to beat.
6:30, we should keep it at 6:30.
Could you, Marcia, I'm sorry, the way this is laid out here, could you reiterate which ones are the specials?
I'll send it to you in a better form.
All right.
Specials are 11/15, 11/21, 11/29.
So 3 in a row.
12/6.
21 is not, that's just different because it's
What, the 4 in a row specials?
Oh, yeah, hold a special.
The 11th, the 21st, the 29th, and December 6th, all 4 special meetings.
Right, and then the 13th is.
So you want a regular meeting again?
This, yeah, the 6th is.
Okay. All right,
So are the special meetings you're doing budget only?
Well, the 21st is only special because it is on a Tuesday and not a Wednesday. That is the normal second meeting of the month.
But we're meeting weekly because we're trying to push through the budget.
So I guess if there was nothing, I think it's unlikely. I think that would be considered a normal meeting in the sense that we would have other business other than the budget. If that's what we're talking.
The 21st?
Yes.
In special meetings, we will reserve for budget and only those urgent things that
I was
have
just
to
going
be
to say
done.
only the budget.
That was my question.
Yeah. So we'll still have 2 meetings a month, so that's when we'll handle other business of the town, and then those meetings that are not on the regularly scheduled meeting dates will be budget only for an hour and a half.
That'll be good.
Yeah, and we'll really try to strive to be an hour and a half.
Okay. For purposes of advertising this to people who were expecting Wednesdays to be the regular meetings, and 11/21 is a Tuesday because of Thanksgiving, that's a regular special meeting.
Yeah. It is a special day for the regularly scheduled.
Right, but we will not do just
No.
budget on that.
That will be other business.
But that's a historic change.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So to not meet on Thanksgiving meeting.
I should make a nice explicit.
So you should all understand this.
Thank you. Yes.
Excuse me,
Yes.
if you want this in the minutes, could you?
I'll send you the graph.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
I got it too.
Thank you all for that fruitful discussion. Is there any other business? Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn at this unprecedented hour? Mary,
I would put something.
Roger woke up from this. All in favor? Oh, yeah. Unanimous. Time adjourned, 8:58.
Y'all can show up.
Just like.
Yeah, that's great. Not fun.